An apparent drunk is sleeping on the beaches of Adelaide. However, a few hours later, he hasn't moved. Could he be asleep? Well, unfortunately, he's dead. And the question of who exactly he is will be asked for multiple decades. This is that story tonight.
What you are about to hear is believed to be real. Based on witness accounts, testimonies, and public record. This is terrifying and true.
In our modern times, it feels like it's impossible to be unknown. Thanks to social media, cell phones, computer databases, and security cameras on every street corner, how can anyone be anonymous, truly? Well, before the time of all those modern convenient and inconvenient elements, sometimes a person would drop dead and no one could figure out who they were. But the real question about the body on Somerton Beach is, was he hiding, or was it just bad luck? This story, which unraveled over the course of many decades, has grabbed interest all over the world, and we'll be discussing that after these quick messages, so make sure you're subscribed. Under the warm embrace of the Australian summer sun, the golden sand of Somerton Beach cradled a secret in its gentle curve, a secret that was neither whispered by the waves nor carried away by the wind. It was the morning of December 1st, 1948, when the unspeakable silence was found, a body of a man dressed not for a swim, but in a crisp suit and freshly shined shoes. The man's identity was an enigma, and his tale was as morbid as it was mysterious, a noir that reality scripted on the shores of Adelaide. It started pretty normally, with a body found on Somerton Beach, which isn't usually the hardest thing to figure out. It's often someone the person knew, like a partner or an ex. Crime usually follows a certain order, and these days, the police have clever tools like DNA tests to help them solve almost anything. But this case in Adelaide, well, it was like no other. We're talking about a time when the best you had was a magnifying glass and your wits. We don't even know who the man was, let alone who might have wanted him dead, or whether he took his own life. This mystery has been one of the biggest whodunits the world has ever seen. But guess what? This mystery finally got resolved after 73 years. Allow me to paint a picture for you of that peculiar day. It was November 30th, 7 p.m., and the air was balmy, the perfect kind of evening for a walk. John Bain Lyons and his wife were enjoying the beach not far from the city. As they strolled along, they spotted a man all dressed up in a suit. Yeah, on the beach, of all places. He was lying there, looking like he was trying to grab something in the sky before his hands just plopped back down. Lyons figured the guy might have had one too many to drink. A bit later, another couple passed by and saw the man lying there, in his fancy clothes, his shoes shining underneath the streetlights. The man still hadn't moved, except now, one arm was out to the side in the sand. The couple thought he must be in a deep sleep, considering he didn't seem to care about the mosquitoes buzzing around his face. They made a joke about how he must be out like a light, but didn't think much more of it. Only the next day did everyone realize the man lying there wasn't sleeping off a big night. He was dead, and nobody could figure out who he was or what had happened to him. It was a riddle wrapped in a mystery right there on the quiet stretch of Somerton Beach. On that fateful morning, The same John Lyons who had seen the seemingly intoxicated man on his evening walk returned from a swim to find a group of individuals huddled at the seawall. His curiosity piqued, he approached to find the same man positioned exactly like the evening, now cold to the touch. Not a single mark of violence marred his body, and a half-smoked cigarette was perched on his collar, seemingly fallen out of his mouth. The dead man's body landed in Royal Adelaide Hospital 3 hours later, where Dr. John Barclay Bennett marked his time of death as not before 2 a.m. Despite appearing to have fallen victim to heart failure, Bennett suspected foul play, possibly poisoning. Upon examining the items from the man's pockets, they found beach tickets, gum, matches, 2 combs, and a surprisingly eclectic mix of Army Club and Kensita cigarettes. With no ID, money, or wallet present, and with the labels on his clothes meticulously removed, the task of identifying the man grew more challenging. A kind of orange thread uncommon in those parts was used to carefully repair a pocket in his trousers. By the next day, the coroners were ready for the autopsy, while the police's attempts to identify the deceased had hit a dead end. The post-mortem, however, proved equally puzzling. The man's pupils were unusually small. His mouth bore the telltale signs of a long dribbled line of saliva, likely unable to swallow. Internally, his spleen was abnormally large, thrice the regular size, and his liver engorged with blood. An analysis of the stomach contents showed his final meal, a pasty, accompanied by an excessive amount of blood. The signs continued to point towards poisoning, but there was no evidence it was from the food. Suddenly, the man's strange behavior on the beach didn't quite align with his drunken stupor, but felt eerily like the slow, agonizing effect of poison. Despite numerous tests, no toxins were uncovered in the man's system, leaving even the experts baffled. Other peculiarities came to light during the examination. The man, although in his late 40s, possessed the high-toned calf muscles of a seasoned athlete. Even his toes had an unusual wedge-like structure. The experts provided a hypothesis, stating that the man might have been accustomed to wearing high-heeled, pointed shoes due to the peculiar shape of his feet. And thus, the baffling case of the unknown man on Somerton Beach grew deeper and darker, much to the chagrin and bewilderment of those involved. But the story doesn't end there. On January 14th, 1949, the workers at Adelaide train station uncovered a labelless brown suitcase that had been checked into the station's cloakroom after 11 a.m. on November 30th, 1948. It was assumed that this suitcase belonged to the mystery man, found lifeless on the beach. What lies within? A curious collection indeed. A dressing gown, red slippers, underclothes, and trousers with sand hidden in their cuffs. Among the mundane tools of intrigue, an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife filed down to a pointed end, scissors with sharpened edges, and a stenciling brush which hinted at tales of the sea. But there was a clue. That vibrant orange thread, foreign and unique against the Australian backdrop, the very same used in a hasty repair on the trousers of the man from the beach. His clothes, stripped of identification save for fragments of a name, T. Keane, whisper secrets into the void. The missing socks and absence of any letters amidst the mundane paint a portrait of anonymity. The suitcase suggests a journey, from America perhaps. The bespoke coat hints at travels or transactions with travelers. Our man, it appears, took an overnight train to Adelaide, visiting the city baths, though no ticket confirms this tale. With the ticket to Henley Beach untaken, he departs, leaving only the suitcase, checked into the cloakroom as he steps into the unknown. Bound for Glenelag, on a city bus. The police, puzzled by the case, decided it was time for fresh eyes. Thus, they summoned John Cleland, a respected professor of pathology from the University of Adelaide, to take a closer look at the enigma. 4 months after the body was found, in the quiet of his investigation, Cleland made a discovery so surprising it sent shivers down everyone's spine. Hidden in the lining of the man's trousers was a secret pocket, a detail previously overlooked by all who examined the clothing. This wasn't an ordinary pocket. It was so small and so well concealed that it seemed designed to hold something precious and private. Within this hidden chamber, Cleland found something extraordinary. It was a tiny piece of paper rolled up so tight it was almost missed. But when it was carefully unfolded, the mystery deepened even further. The paper bore 2 words, "Tamam Shud," printed in an elegant script. These words, meaning "the end" in Persian, added an eerie, almost cinematic touch to an already baffling case. It was as if the dead man had left behind a clue from a world beyond, a final message that raised more questions than answers. This story gets deeper and even more mysterious from here. Skip ahead 8 months. Out of the blue, a guy appears with a book called Rubaiyat. He came across it in his car, didn't know where it came from, but noticed a page was torn out. The very page that ends in the poignant phrase. In a curious twist, the book was scribbled with what seemed like a secret code and had a phone number that led to a nurse named Jessie Jo Thompson, living close to where our mystery man was found. When shown a cast of the man's face, Thompson looked so shocked that she nearly passed out. But she claimed not to recognize him, and the police didn't push her further. After that, clues began to dry up. The mystery deepens, and the case is far from being closed. Many have tried to guess the identity of the man known as the Somerton Man and how he met his untimely end. Some folks reckon he was a spy thrust into the dangerous cat-and-mouse game of espionage during the Cold War. They question whether he fell victim to a deadly checkmate that cost him his life. Others whisper of a lurid love story gone wrong. Could this mystery man have danced too close to the flames of passion, leading to a tragic end? There are even suggestions that he was taken out by an unseen hand using poison, a type that is rare and impossible to detect. But the most poignant of all theories is that the Somerton Man was caught in a love triangle, his end marked with the cryptic note, "Taman Should," a lover's final, silent whisper. After several years had passed, Professor Derek Abbott from the University of Adelaide investigated further by diving deep into the Thompson family's history. He found, however, that Jo and her son Robin had both passed away. Yet whispers of a connection lingered, told through the tale of rare ear and tooth traits and the calves of a dancer, traits they shared with the elusive Somerton Man. But the plot took an unexpected turn when Fitzpatrick, a sleuth of genetics, declared that the DNA tale told no ties between Robin Thompson and the Somerton Man. And so, the link vanished like smoke, along with the theory involving Abbott's wife Rachel, who had stepped into the story as Robin Thompson's daughter during the investigation. For nearly 7 decades, the Somerton Man's story has stirred wild theories and intense debates. Folks suspected he was a Russian spy, based on the cryptic code in his copy of the Rubaiyat, and measures taken to conceal his identity. Yet cryptographers warn it might not be a real code at all. Abbott, for instance, thinks it could be the names of horses that Webb had bet on. Then some speculate that he was a ballet dancer. They point to the coroner's report about his unusually toned calf muscles, similar to a woman's or a dancer's, and a possible history of wearing high heels and pointed shoes. In May of 2021, authorities decided to take a closer look and dug up the Somerton man's body for genetic examination. These new DNA findings, separate from Abbott and Fitzpatrick's investigation, are exciting, but officials remain tight-lipped until the results are ready. Interestingly, the new DNA analysis disproved any genetic link between Egan and Webb, conclusively ruling out Robin as Webb's son. Abbott still doesn't give up the possibility of connections with Robin's mom, but concedes that it might remain unknown. However, in a twist, the DNA findings did link the Somerton man to Webb. Further archival digging by Abbott and Fitzpatrick revealed more about Webb. Born to a German father and an Australian mother in a Melbourne suburb on November 16, 1905, Webb was their sixth child. Webb, an instrument maker, married Dorothy Jean Robertson, a foot specialist, in 1941. This raises a very serious question. Is the Somerton man actually the real Carl Webb? The story spins further back to April of 1947 when Webb vanished from his wife's life. Fast forward a few years past the mystery man's discovery on Somerton Beach, and Dorothy, his wife, announces in the newspaper she's divorcing Webb because he left her. By that time, Dorothy had moved closer to where the mystery began, placing them in the same slice of Australia. Abbott thinks maybe Webb was trying to find his wife when he ended up in Adelaide, but it's all guesswork, connecting dots in a picture still unclear. Webb liked poetry and horse betting, living a life that hinted at deeper stories. He had a sister married to a Thomas Keene, possibly explaining the T. Keene tag found with the Somerton man. Maybe the clothes, looking American, were just second-hand finds from a visiting soldier. Despite efforts, no photo of Webb surfaces. Yet, a picture of his brother offers a surprising clue. Strikingly similar to our Somerton man. This story leaves us with many questions. Why did Webb come to that beach? How did he die? Was it suicide, murder, or something else? And what exactly is his link to Thompson, if any? A mystery this profound can never truly be solved. Or maybe it really is just a matter of time. Terrifying and True is narrated by Enrique Couto. It's executive produced by Rob Fields and Mark Shields. Produced by Daniel Wilder with original theme music by Ray Mattis. If you have a story you'd like us to cover on the program, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. And if you want to support us in a very direct way, go to weeklyspooky.com and click on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us and allow us to keep the spooky rolling and rolling and rolling. And I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, John Kalin, Bobbletopia.com, Jenny Green, Brent McCullough, Karen Wiemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time right here on Weekly Spooky and Terrifying and True.